The morning sun rose over the Germanic forests, but Lucius Varro felt no warmth. He stood among 4,000 legionnaires in the winter camp, their breath forming clouds in the frozen air. Every man knew why they had been assembled. 3 days earlier, their cohort had broken ranks and fled when the Germanic warriors attacked their supply column. 50 Romans died in the chaos. Hundreds more abandoned their posts to save their own lives. General Tiberius Drusus stood on the wooden platform, his face carved from stone. He was a man who had conquered lands from Gaul to the Rhine, and now he stared at his soldiers with disgust. Behind him, centurions lined up with vine staffs and clubs. Lucius felt his stomach twist. He had heard whispers of the ancient punishment, decimation, but believed it belonged to history, not to his reality. The general's voice cut through the silence like a blade. The shame of cowardice could not stand. Rome demanded discipline. Rome demanded blood. For every 10 men, one would die. Not by enemy hands, but by their own brothers. Lucius looked at the 9 men in his contubernum, the tent group that had become his family over 3 years of service. There was old Titus, who shared his wine and told stories of campaigns in Hispania. Young Decimus, barely 16, who cried for his mother on cold nights. Rufus the Joker, who made them laugh even when rations ran low. These were not just soldiers. These were his brothers. The centurions moved through the ranks, dividing them into groups of 10. Leather bags appeared, each containing 10 stones. 9 white, 1 black. Lucius felt his hands shake as the bag reached his group. Titus drew first. White. Decimus next. Tears already streaming. White. 1 by 1. White. 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 8 stones gone. 2 remained. Lucius and Rufus locked eyes. The Joker was not laughing now. Lucius reached into the bag, his fingers closing around the cold stone. He pulled it out slowly, opened his palm, and saw white. Rufus collapsed to his knees. The black stone rolling from his hand onto the frozen ground. Gaius. Marcellus had survived 23 years in the legions. He had fought in Syria, marched through deserts, and stood firm when barbarians screamed and charged. But nothing in those decades prepared him for this moment. He stood in a circle with 8 other men, all holding clubs. In the center, Rufus knelt, his wrists bound, his face wet with tears. The centurion's orders were clear. Every man must strike. Those who refused would take the condemned man's place, and 9 new lots would be drawn. Refusal meant death and endangering others.
Remember how scared I am.
There was no escape from this horror. Rufus looked up at them, at Gaius, at Lucius, who stood frozen with his club hanging limp. The condemned man spoke quietly, asking them to make it quick, to aim for his head, to end it fast. He told them he forgave them. He understood they had no choice. These words made everything worse. The first blow came from Titus. The old soldier closed his eyes and swung hard. The club connected with bone, and Rufus cried out. Then Decimus struck, sobbing as he did. Then another. Gaius felt his turn arrive. His hands gripped the wood. He had killed enemies without hesitation, but this was different. This was Rufus, who had saved his life during an ambush 2 summers ago. He swung. The impact traveled up his arms. He heard the crack, heard Rufus moan. Other clubs fell, again and again. The sound echoed across the camp. 4,000 men watched in silence, knowing that tomorrow more groups would face the same fate. 50 men would die before the decimation ended. When it finished, Rufus lay still in the dirt. Blood pooled around him. The 9 survivors dropped their clubs and stood there, unable to move, unable to speak. The centurion ordered them to drag the body to the mass grave being dug outside the camp walls. They obeyed like ghosts. That night, the survivors received their additional punishment, while the rest of the legion ate wheat bread. Those who participated in decimation received barley, animal feed, marking their shame. They slept outside the protective walls, exposed to the winter cold and any Germanic raiders who might attack. Gaius sat in the darkness, staring at his hands. They were clean now, washed in the river, but he still saw blood. He would see it for the rest of his life. Tribune Quintus Severus kept the records. 50 men dead by morning. 50 Romans killed by Romans to restore discipline to 4,000. He sat in the command tent, writing his report to the Senate, trying to find words that justified what he had witnessed. General Drusus stood by the map table, drinking wine, his face showing nothing. He had ordered the decimation without hesitation. Following the ancient tradition that generals before him had used when soldiers forgot their duty, Quintus wanted to ask if it was worth it. If killing 50 loyal men would truly make the legion stronger, but he remained silent. Questions were not his place. The next morning, the legion marched. The Germanic tribes had gathered for another attack, confident after their previous victory. But the Romans who took the field were different now. They held formation when the barbarians charged. They did not break when arrows fell. They fought with desperate intensity, knowing that cowardice meant something far worse than death in battle. The Germanic warriors were crushed. The victory was total. General Drusus rode through the camp that night, praising his soldiers, declaring that Rome's honor had been restored. The men cheered, but their voices sounded hollow. Quintus watched Lucius and the other survivors. They had performed well in battle, fighting harder than anyone. But something was gone from their eyes. They moved like living men but seemed empty inside. The legion had one, but what had it lost? In the following months, discipline remained perfect. No one fled. No one questioned orders. The decimation had worked exactly as intended. Yet Quintus noticed that the survivors rarely spoke. They performed their duties without complaint, but without joy. Some requested transfers to distant posts. Others simply disappeared one night, deserting despite knowing the punishment. Years later, after his service ended, Quintus would tell people about the decimation. Some called it necessary, the price of military greatness. Others called it barbaric, proof that Rome's power came from terror. He never knew which side was right. What he did know was this. Decimation created obedient soldiers, but it destroyed the brotherhood that made legions truly strong. Fear could forge discipline, but it could not forge loyalty. The 50 men died quickly. The survivors died slowly, carrying their guilt until their final days. Rome conquered the world through such methods. The question that haunted Quintus forever was simple. What did Rome become in the process?